I'm an American. And because I'm an American, I need a truck so big, so long, so thick, so capable that it's exempt from gas mileage ratings, just like I'm exempt, wink, at these stupid, illegal, unconstitutional values. This is the Hyundai Veloster N. This is the high-performance 3.5-door hatchback offered by Hyundai. Very sporty styling, black and chrome wheels, black side skirt with a red trim, red brakes, a really cool sort of hammerhead rear taillight design, pretty aggressive dual-layered spoiler. Rear diffuser with more of that red-orange trim, and let's see how it feels. One thing to note about this car, majority of the width of this car is the door. So when you open up the car, you have to be cognizant of what's next to you when you're parked. And let's see how it fits. And we are in the front seat of the Hyundai Veloster N. This is clearly a track car because the seats are heavily bolstered. My legs are kept firmly in place. My torso is well positioned and it's very snug fitting. Sort of a mono piece seat. Classic push buttons and knobs, and you know, very conventional, very easy to use, a moderately sized screen. Now, Hyundai, come on Hyundai, what are you doing? This is an automatic, this is a sports car, it should be a manual, but hey, at least you got the manual shifter correct. We're upshifted back. Thank you very much. You also have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Have a drive mode button on the left and a checkered flag button for, you know, I reviewed this car in 2020 and I said the checkered flag button is to finish the race, and I'm still going with that because I have no idea what it's for. Now this car actually has rear seats. Kind of like the Toyota 86, but like the Toyota 86, I wouldn't put anything living back there for much longer than about 15 seconds, because you have about this half door on the right side and no door on the left side, and that's just not, I can tell it's not going to be a pleasant place. Now the blind spot in this car is rather sizable. That's one thing you have to sort of come to terms with, but what other people have to come to terms with is that you are going to dominate the track. This is a Honda Civic Type R competitor, and I've heard it does almost as well as that car. Very nice steering wheel, has a little bit of a plushness to it. Really good positioning for your thumb to grip right at 9 and 3 and just chuck this thing off into the corners. This is Hyundai's mid-size sedan, the Sonata, but this is not just any Sonata, this is the Sonata Hybrid. It has a slightly different grille treatment, which it needs because otherwise it looks like a catfish. Interesting wheel design. It looks like a big spinning fan. I like it. Nice integrated black spoiler into the taillights, which I like the taillight design. It wraps all the way around the trunk of this car with a big Sonata emblem on it. It's a very classy looking car. Hyundai and Kia, they've been knocking styling out of the park recently. Love it. Let's try the inside. Inside the Sonata Hybrid. Pretty nice in here. I like this interesting sort of wavy designed steering wheel. Very smooth leather texture. Easy to grab onto. You have some paddle shifters back here. You have some subtle blue mood lighting. I love the blue lighting in Hyundais and Kias. It's very nice. You have this large touchscreen, push button shifter, drive mode selectors with a bunch of piano black trim. Not a big fan of that. Large center console that serves very well as an armrest. The armrest here is very plush. Again, more of that blue lighting. The seat has a lot of adjustability. It feels good. It's kind of on the flatter side on the bottom, and the side bolsters are not very intrusive. So it's not trying to be a sporty feel at all, but very luxurious. It does pass the hair test, as I said. And let's try the back seat. Back seat of the Hyundai Sonata Hybrid. It's very nice here. Feet are a little squished with the seat all the way down. I have about 3 inches of legroom, 2.5 to 3 inches of legroom. You have some rear air vents for hot days. That's really nice. Seat cushion's pretty good. The seat cushion's actually slightly tilted up, adequate thigh support. The seat back is pretty squishy, but not too squishy. Rear visibility is very nice thanks to a moderately thin C-pillar. And unless I sit all the way back, it does pass the air test. I have to sit up a little bit. If I sit back, then it brushes up against right there. Looks like a lot of cars, but up here it's fine. So that's one thing to consider. Or if I just splay open a little bit, sit back, be more relaxed, it is totally fine. Welcome to the inside of the Chevrolet Camaro. If you're more of a Chevy guy and less of a Ford guy and you want a muscle car, then you gotta get this, because this is probably going away pretty soon. Chevy Camaro, you have these nice retro round climate dials, manual stick shift, thank you, conventional climate buttons and a nice touchscreen. Not a lot of piano black finish, which is nice. You have a nice semi-cushy center console here. See, it opens up here and you have not a ton of space, but some space. Interesting door design that sort of flows into the dash, conventional gauges, nice thick steering wheel, although it's kind of flat on the bottom, so it's hard to grip onto it. You have some paddle shifters, although it's rev match paddle shifters since you have a stick. Flat bottom steering wheel because sporty, and it is very cramped in here. The windows are all very short, and my head is actually brushing the ceiling, even with the seat all the way down. There are rear seats back here, but unless you're a sadist, I wouldn't put anybody back there. Large blind spot. At least it's sort of easy to get out. Long, wide door opening. You have this nice burnt orange color on the outside. Not super aggressive wheels, but I like the clear taillights. You have a quad exhaust. Nice, traditional muscle car body lines. Yeah, there's your large blind spot. Large rear wheel fender. I don't know what NASCAR is going to do when they stop making this, because all of their Chevys are Camaro based. Love this front design. Very aggressive. It's, you know, it's kind of the styling cues that they put onto the Malibu. Nice sharp front splitter. So yeah, if you want a Camaro, you should probably get one soon. Welcome to the inside of the Hyundai Venue. This is essentially an accent platform that they've turned into an SUV because America. The interior trim is pretty nice. You have this contrasting colors here, that sort of dark navy black color with this cream color. Although this is a very price conscious car, being the base offering, so they only cushion the materials where they need to. Steering wheel feels, you know, very basic. You know, it's not, you know, it's relatively comfortable for your hands. There's no sporty feel to it. You have a very conventional shifter with this kind of cheap labeling on this very thin plastic, although it does look better than I remember from last time. This must be an upper trim. You have this nice infotainment screen with conventional knobs and buttons, although the dials just spin forever, so that's not great. Nice looking seats with this sort of like suede material and this stitching and this nice patterning on the stitching, but it's not that comfortable. There's no adjustable thigh support and it's kind of a flat cushion. The back is moderately supportive, so that's nice. I've positioned the seat comfortable for me, and I have plenty of headroom. It's a rather boxy vehicle. We'll take a look at the outside in a second. Let's see how the back is. In the back seat of the Hyundai Venue, and I can tell you it is not the Venue for me or anybody who's taller than maybe 5'10". This is very tight. I have adequate footroom, but my knees are wedged into this plastic shell in the back of the seat to the point that I think I'm going to break it, so I need to splay my legs to not damage the seat. I do have adequate headroom. It does pass the hair test. It's a very tall roof, although that's a pretty big blind spot because, hey, there's a Subaru Ascent. Goodbye, Subaru Ascent. So again, watch your blind spots carefully, adjust your mirrors. Let's check out the outside of this thing if I can manage to get out of it. It is a very cute car. I like the design of the wheels. It's very aggressive. You have these sort of diagonal slashes through the taillights, contrasting color roof. It's a very stylish car. You know, it looks like sort of has a dark denim color with a nice pearl white roof, basic plaid, almost like a plaid grille is what I would call it. It's interesting, you have these two slits for headlights that you'd think were the main ones, but it looks like the main ones are surrounded by these square lamps that are illuminated right now. It's a nice looking car, but if you need a back seat for anybody who's basically an adult, don't do this. I'm sorry, Lexus, but I have to do it again. We are on the inside of the Lexus IS, which is Lexus's compact sports sedan. Well, it is nicely detailed in here. You have this really nice, soft, cushy, perforated leather on the steering wheel. These nicely placed and large paddle shifters. This sort of old-style clock, retro round climate vents. You have a conventional shifter, although the manual mode is backwards. This weird touchpad, which the jury's out on that. Nicely, very large, cushioned armrest with a large canopy down here. You know, there's a lot of things to like about the inside of the IS, except for the fact that it's all-wheel drive. And you're saying, well, why does all-wheel drive have to do with the inside? Well, it's because Lexus is a Japanese company. In Japan, the steering wheel is on the right side, and so in Japan, they're like, well, we don't prioritize the passenger side as much, so we can screw with it. Well, they didn't realize that the passenger side in Japan is the driver's side in the United States, and what had to happen is, in order to put the all-wheel drive into this vehicle, apparently they had to put some extra tunneling and machinery and equipment underneath the car. What this resulted in is this large hump in the floor, which happens to just be right in the way of where your leg needs to go to get to the gas pedal in America. So when you're getting in the car, you have to put your leg over the hump and get to the steering wheel, or get to the gas pedal that way. Once you're there, it's okay, but then getting out, your heel of your shoe hits against this hump, you have to raise it over the hump and then get it out. It is kind of annoying. They did restyle the car in the last year or two. It is a nice looking car. I like the black spoiler. I like the black trim on the wheels. I like this big line going up around the rear wheel. It's reminiscent of the big wheel fenders on the Supra, which makes sense because Toyota and Lexus are related. You have this large grille because Lexus has been getting in the grille game for many years now, and you can see all of their cars. It's just like a competition of who has which grille is most grille. Lexus. It's a nice looking car, but weird engineering underneath. This is a Honda Accord Hybrid. It is very nice in here. Lots of nice touch materials, soft on the door, soft on the armrest. You have this very soft leather steering wheel. Let me see if I can raise it just a little bit to give you a better look at the gauges. Very colorful gauges, nice display. You see your power output and how much electricity you're using. You have a heads-up display in this car. That's very fancy. Large center touchscreen with lots of different colors, and you have a conventional tuning knob and volume knob. Thank you, Honda. Conventional climate buttons and knobs. Although again, they turn forever. So that's a pet peeve of mine. Push button start. You have some USB ports down here. You have one of these gear selectors that I've heard is like a child's game. Square goes in the square, circles goes in the circle. I'm sure if you drove this every day, you'd get used to it. You have an Nikon mode and a sport mode. With the sport mode, you have these paddle shifters, which are nice. A little bit of a ridged texture on the back, like one ridge. If this fake wood, I think it's fake wood trim along the doors and the right side of the dash. You have this large, it's not that well padded, it's kind of firm center console, but it's a lot of dampening in the opening and the hinge, so that feels nice. You have this tray up here that you can slide forward and backwards, and a large cubby hole down there. Seat is very comfortable. The thigh support is amazing. Seat cushion's relatively long. Side bolstering on the seat back is moderate. You know, it feels much more like a comfort-oriented seat than a sporty seat. I have a nice commanding view of the road. Plenty of headroom above this, below this sunroof. Nice view out. You have kind of thick A-pillars at the base because you have these little speakers here, so you have to just watch out what's in there. And let's check out the back seat. Back seat of the Accord Hybrid, very nice. Not a ton of foot room, but tons of leg room. I have about maybe 4 inches of leg room between me and the front seat. Depending on my seating position, my hair touches the roof, and sometimes it doesn't. If I sit upright, it does. If I lean back a little bit, well, I have 4 inches of legroom to cut into. I have plenty of margin, and my hair clears the roof. You have some USB ports or some charging ports. Yeah, USB ports and rear climate vents. Nice center console that can be your middle seat back. And relatively thin seat pillars. You have a pretty generous blind spot mirror there. And the rear window is rather large. This is a comfortable place to be. I like this car. You do have hard plastic up on the top of the rear doors, although the armrest is padded. You have more of that fake wood trim. Let's check out the outside. The outside looks very much like the conventional Accord. You have these aggressive 5-spoke wheels, which I believe is the same on the Sport trim. You have this chrome accent that goes down from the rear bumper across the side skirt and sort of disappears into the car. It's a very modestly designed car. You have this one strong character line that goes across the doors. LED headlights. Now this front grille design has been controversial ever since it came out. A lot of people say it looks kind of flat and snub-nosed, and that's for pedestrian safety reasons. I think as I see more of it, it grows on me. Still not a big fan of it. It has this weird expression on it. But everything from the front, from the headlights back, I think is beautiful on this car. Sort of has this coupe silhouette to it. And it has plenty of room. You have chrome accents on the door handles. These nice conservative taillights, they kind of remind me of the Chevy Impala from several years ago. There's sort of this integrated spoiler into the trunk. And it looks very much like the gas car, and you're getting over 40 miles a gallon. All these features, very nice. This is the inside of the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid XSE. XSE is the super sporty trim of their cars, which is why you have all this blue fancy stitching on the seats, blue stitching on the doors that goes across the dash. It's a very nice accent color. And I like the fact that they didn't just go with your traditional red or orange, and they decided to do something with a little bit more of a cooling flair. Steering wheel is very nice, rather plush, a good place for your hands, nicely sculpted. Buttons look conventional. A lot of conventional climate buttons and knobs. I like this rubber texture that they put on the large knobs, although there's not a lot of resistance to them. They spin pretty freely, so that's a bit disappointing. You have this big conventional shifter with a manual mode that again goes the wrong direction in my opinion. You have a mode dial, drive mode dial. You can have normal, eco or sport, and trail mode and EV mode. So all sorts of different personalities, because we all want all-in-ones these days. We want a vehicle that can do everything. You can be in EV mode or sport mode and have your all-wheel drive and eat it too. Did that make any sense? I don't know. First, let's talk about the front seat. Seat is nicely bolstered. You have these nice side bolsters on the lower cushion. The lower cushion does have thigh support. That's very nice. The seat cushion is just barely too short in my opinion, but it's nice. The seat back, plenty of bolstering for your lower back. Although I wish it had a little bit more shoulder support, to be honest. It's nice in here. You have this large sunroof up in the top. Interior trim, once again, looks nice. You have this big aggressive handle right here. And we'll talk about some of the exterior styling in a second, but let's try the back seat. Sitting behind myself in the RAV4 Hybrid XSE. I have a decent amount of footroom under the seat. The lower part of my shin is just barely brushing the lower edge of the seat, but where my knees are, I have about 2 inches of legroom. Not bad. I have plenty of headroom. The ceiling in this car is very generous. Rather decently sized blind spot back there. There's a Toyota Venza that I can, or a Toyota Sienna. It's like, hey Sienna, by Sienna. So you just want to make sure you're looking at your blind spot monitoring carefully. Let's check out the outside styling of this vehicle. Several years ago when they redesigned the RAV4, to me they incorporated several Jeep styling cues with these sort of squared off wheel fenders. The XSE gives you all of this black trim, so black wheel fenders, black roof, black bumper, black Toyota logo, and black name icons. You have these black wheels. I don't believe the kayak comes with it. That's something you have to go to your local LL Bean or something and get yourself. Other than that, it's a very aggressively styled vehicle. It fits in with the rest of the Toyota lineup. I think it's rather stylish. It looks angry. It also looks Jeepish, but friendly enough that any everyday Joe could drive it and be happy. Well, as you know, in America, there's a big battle between Chevy and Ford. And if you're a Ford man or Ford woman, then you know that in America, we don't make cars anymore. People don't like cars. They don't want to buy cars these days. So we took all of our cars. We took the Fusion, we took the Focus, we took the Fiesta, and we annihilated them off the face of the planet. And we replaced all of them with this. The Ford Escape. It looks very car-like, and that's intentional because they're hoping that all y'all car people who are now being deprived of your cars will act this SUV crossover-ish thing because it looks like a car, sort of. And it's nice. It has a nice smiley look on it. No hard creases or lines. It is just raised off the ground, and let's see how it fits on the inside. So now we're inside the Ford Escape. I had to switch models because this is the only one that had adjustable seats. So this is the S trim, so you have this infotainment screen about the size of an iTouch 3 with basic knobs and buttons for your climate control, a round shifter, electronic parking brake, and this is definitely the basic trim. Everything, you know, this feels very rental car in here. You know, very plain. You have lots of plastic materials. The door materials, they're padded. You know, everything looks nice. The speedometer and everything, it's, you know, it's all very basic in here. The seat cushion's very flat. It's just like a pad of foam. It's cushy. It's somewhat supportive. You know, it definitely feels more like an SUV than a car in here. Tons of headroom, so that's good. You get that advantage. And we'll see how it is in the back seat. And now we're in the back seat of the Ford Escape. A lot of foot room, and that's good. Although my shins are touching the bottom of the seat, my knees have approximately 3 inches in front of them because the back seat is sort of scalloped out for rear seat room. Tons of headroom, although this is the most plain rear seat you'll ever experience in your life. It's just a big flat slab of foam, and the seat cushion doesn't even attempt to support your legs. Pretty sizable blind spot pillar there, and the door trim is all black plastic with a couple different lines etched into it. It's very basic in here, but this is the lowest trim level of the Ford Escape. So we are on the inside of a Toyota Corolla. This is the car for you if you want a car, but you don't really want to buy a car, but you've heard Toyota's pretty good, so why not that? But seriously, this is actually a fairly nice car for an entry-level car. Seats feel very nice. There's a lot of adjustability to them. Not much heavy bolstering, and actually the seat cushion itself is very short. Fortunately, there is adjustable thigh support, but the seat cushion itself just ends up short on your legs if you're tall like me. Standard shifter. You have your standard Toyota infotainment system. Lots of piano black. Here you have a dual cup holders. Little center console with some space. Nicely textured materials, soft door pad, interesting jutting out dash piece there, but it sort of blends well with the door. Steering wheel, lots of adjustment to it. It's a very thin feeling steering wheel. It's a little bit of a, you can tell it's fake leather. It has a little bit of a a rough, beady texture to it, but a lot of easily readable and reachable buttons. Let's see how it feels in the back. So everyone knows the Toyota Corolla is a compact car, and that is definitely represented in the comfort level of the rear seat. Not much foot room under my seat, which I put all the way down. I have about maybe an inch to inch and a half of leg room. If I try to sit forward at all, my knees go into the back of the seat, and I want to do that so that my head no longer hits the roof. This car really does not pass the hair test. It almost doesn't pass the head test. There is no sunroof, and you can see there's a more scalloped out area for the front seats, and then it's pretty much just a standard curve for the back seats. And you can see in the shadow line, they tried to give you as much room as they could right in here, but it still doesn't work, and my hair brushes the roof. You know, it's not that bad. Seat cushion is pretty comfortable, nice shoulder support. Again, the seat cushion itself is pretty flat. Decent visibility out the side. Pretty thin pillars, so good blind spot there. Decent view out the left side. Camera focus. And yeah, but this is not a Focus. This is a Corolla. They don't make the Focus anymore. Because in America, we don't buy cars, except this one, apparently. Toyota Corolla. Let's check out the outside. This is a compact car, but it's nicely styled. They tried to, add a little bit of sportiness. They're trying to add some flair to their car line because, they're not selling as well, so they need to make them aggressive looking. The front end looks very identical to the Corolla hatchback, which is actually a very nice car. Handles very well, but actually has less rear leg room and rear seat room than this model, so I wouldn't even want that. Nice sort of a bluish gray tone. Standard wheels. Nice black trim around the windows. Let's check out the trunk room, shall we? Trunk room looks pretty good for a compact car. You could put several suitcases in here. It's not huge, and I'm sure you could put the seats down. And this is actually the hybrid, Corolla hybrid, which I've always been confused. I feel like the Corolla hybrid overlaps with the Prius a little bit too much. They're probably in similar price ranges, but if you want something a little bit smaller than a Prius, because if somebody looks at a Prius and that's just too big, which I don't know who says that, but then this is the car for you. This is the inside of the Nissan Kicks, and this is the SR trim, so it's a little bit on the sporty side. So you have this orange stitching that goes across the dash and nowhere else. I don't see it on the shifter. Oh, it's on the seats. Orange stitching on the seats. The seats are manually adjustable, and the thigh support, I wish it was a little bit more. I wish you could raise the thigh. The back is a bit hard. Decent lumbar support, and the side bolsters are moderate. You have this pretty easy looking touchscreen with a tuning knob and a volume knob. Thank you, Nissan. And you have these old-fashioned climate vents. It's interesting. You have these like rubber parts and plastic parts. It's interesting. It adds some interest to it, but they do spin forever, so that's a little bit less luxury feeling. You have a conventional shifter with a push-button start and a lot of piano black finish, so hope you're prepared to scratch that up. No paddle shifters, and this steering wheel has a very rugged, dry feeling leather to it. You can get a good grip of it, but the wheel itself feels rather large. It's interesting. A flat bottom steering wheel because it is the SR trim. You do have this very low center console here. It's not very good for an armrest. You have a little bit of storage in there. Now the door is interesting. It's all this hard plastic, and what's interesting is the door release. Most companies, they put it a little bit higher. You have to sort of fish down to get it, and you have this big, just flat piece of cheap plastic there. You do have a little bit of padding here, so that's okay. Let's try the back seat. In the back seat of the Nissan Kicks, and surprisingly, I have more room than I anticipated given this class of vehicle. Foot room is pretty good. My lower shins are hitting the bottom edge of the seat, and my knees have maybe about an inch and a half of leg room. I do pass the hair test. The roof line is pretty flat. This is a moderately boxy vehicle. Large blind spot there, so watch that, because we got a Nissan SUV there. No Nissan SUV there, so just be careful. with your blind spots. The seat itself is pretty upright. It's pretty flat, although I'm sure you could adjust the recline. The seat cushion, this whole entire seat feels a little bit higher up than most cars, so actually you get a little bit more thigh support out of this seat cushion than you would in some other vehicles. You have some USB charging ports back here, but no air vents. Again, large sheet of hard, kind of cheap plastic, and the door handle is pretty low compared to most models. Let's see what the styling looks like on the outside. I like this blue color, and the SR trim gives you these black wheels and this contrasting black roof. A little bit of plastic cladding because, again, they want to convince you this is an SUV and not just like a raised wagon, which is what all these things are these days. The front of the car looks very much like the Versa or the Sentra, and it is okay. It fits, fits you rather well, and it looks stylish. Interior trim's not the best, but what do you want from an entry-level car? You want it to look cool from the outside, which it does. It wants to fit you and your stuff on the inside, which it does. So get your kicks with the Nissan Kick. I'm sorry, it's so cliche I had to.